So before we start, I would like to recognize the generosity of Fairbridge Foundation and Country Financial, who have really shared in our vision of expanding Financial Beginnings. They've been more than funders. They've really been thought partners alongside us as we navigate this really exciting and very pivotal transition. So both have provided generous lead gifts, which have helped us as we turn this vision into a reality to bring financial education to more individuals across the United States. And they've helped us attract other funders and partners along the way. So after 12 successful years as service as a singular nonprofit, and after a few recent years of careful planning, in July of 2017, we launched Financial Beginnings as new iteration of a national nonprofit with a state-based affiliate model. So what was Financial Beginnings became three entities: USA, Washington, Financial Beginnings USA, Financial Beginnings Washington, and Financial Beginnings Oregon. And so it's been a fun, productive, and sometimes pretty wild ride since then. And so what has that meant? For us, it means that the how we further our mission, how we do what we do has changed, but the why we're passionate and why we choose to invest so much of ourselves in what we do has remained the same. So just taking a moment to reflect on the why and its importance here, because although we've been moving forward, there have been some bumps and hurdles on this path. And so as we navigate these new transitions, new leadership, and new roles, it's important to remember why we're doing all that we do. So the why inspires us and it grounds us. And most importantly, the why unites us. And so it unites across the three and growing entities. It unites us as a team to one another, the affiliates to one another, and the affiliates to us, USA. So there are both the practical whys and the personal whys. And so the practical whys are that we know financial education contributes to more positive financial behaviors, and that this dramatically increases the life opportunities for those we serve, particularly underserved and vulnerable audiences. We also know that our financial education programs make a measurable impact, and we know that communities, schools, and parents rely on us to provide non-commercial, high-quality financial education. We also recently had an opportunity. We applied for funding on behalf of all of our affiliates, and we were asked to share our more personal whys, why we're passionate about what we do, and why we're committed to our mission. And so I'm not going to read all these, but there's just a few quotes out of probably 15, 20 we received from our community members, from our staff members, from the people that we serve. And so that's been really motivating to see. So with the whys solidly in place, we can focus on the how. And so for Financial Beginnings USA, this how has changed. And so we used to provide direct service. We were the ones teaching in the schools and in the communities. And now this role is filled by our affiliates. So now Financial Beginnings is focused on geographic expansion and launching new affiliates throughout the United States. We're focused on increasing our national visibility, which helps with local visibility and name recognition as well. We are focused on supporting our existing affiliates and our up and coming affiliates by providing high quality financial education programs. And we maintain operations, technology, and the systems that keep everything afloat. And we also lead with vision while keeping long-term sustainability in mind. So before we go into some more details about our successes, this really has all started with building our team. So we've doubled our team from 1 year ago from 2.5 full-time equivalents to now 4.5. We've added 2 full-time positions, an instructional design specialist and our marketing and communications manager, which has dramatically increased our capacity to achieve these new hows. So I want to share just a few of our successes over the past year in these areas. The first of which is really our geographic expansion. Is what we're really working towards together. We have, in addition to the 8 steps you see here, we have formalized and refined an initial inquiry process. We've created a group presentation that we have regularly, at least quarterly, for interested affiliates across the United States. And we have customized materials to help new markets mobilize a team to launch a financial beginnings affiliate in their offices, or in their state, sorry. So in the past year, we've received countless informal inquiries, but we've also received 41 that have followed the kind of formal procedural steps we've put into place. And then from Georgia to Oklahoma to Texas to Arizona, we have had 28 viable inquiries that represent 19 different states, which you can see on the map as the lighter shade of green. And the darker shade of green is the 5 states who are in various stages of preparing for a more formal launch. So we're working with those 5 states more hands-on right now. And so to support this, we've hosted 4 national web-based presentations to bring together different team leaders and different expertise at the USA level and beyond. And we've also visited 4 states to assess the viability of the initial launch teams there. We've met with community team leaders, and we've also hosted pre-launch community meetings to learn from the community what they need and how they envision financial beginnings operating in their state. And so now, to continue sharing our successes, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Tim. He is our Marketing and Communications Manager. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Kristen. A closely tied initiative to geographic expansion is increasing visibility of financial beginnings as an organization and the various programming we provide to communities. In order to establish broader name recognition, there needs to be cohesion across our brand and market touchpoints. To this end, we have recently registered for and received trademark status for the Financial Beginnings name, mark, and providing good sense tagline, as well as for our financial footings, framings, foundations, and pathways programming marks. As we enter new markets and work with others to launch FB affiliates, it will become increasingly important for us to have such registered trademarks. Beyond logos, efforts are also underway to establish a cohesive and consistent look and feel across all marketing and communications materials. Again, as we establish new affiliates in more states across the country, it will become increasingly important and more challenging to maintain a consistent FB look among the growing number of market touchpoints. By establishing definitive style guides and color palettes that affiliates may use to develop their communications materials on the ground, we may better maintain a cohesive look that will help establish name recognition and increase visibility. In addition to leveraging our existing trademarks, we have also developed distinctive logos for our new or in-progress programs, Safe and Forward. We're currently working on the design and look and feel for SAFE program guides that better connects with programming participants. An important aspect of increasing visibility and name recognition involves supporting affiliates in their on-the-ground efforts to get the word out in a consistent and efficient manner. This past year, we've begun to create accessible and customizable files that affiliates can quickly retrieve. Working through a web-based system, affiliates are able to request materials that suit their purpose and work with a marketing communications manager, that would be me, to develop content, copy, and design that both serve their needs and fit within the parameters of the larger expansion goals of FBUSA. Additionally, protocols regarding material use are also continually being developed in an effort to help affiliates streamline and maximize their marcom tactics. So you'll be hard-pressed to establish any visibility or name recognition without seriously thinking about and developing external messaging. This past year, FBUSA has made significant strides in establishing a larger social media footprint through an increase in the volume and quality of generated content, both original and curated. Social media has been used to spread the word about our collective and individual programming, about our affiliate opportunities, and our licensing offerings. But we have also deepened our role in participating in the national dialogue surrounding financial literacy and capacity, personal finance, and money management. By collaborating with industry partners such as Country Financial, the National Jumpstart Coalition, and Experian, we've been able to amplify our message nationally and establish connections with some of the most well-known companies and organizations in the country. As a kind of indicator of our external messaging efforts, we were able to garner increases from previous years across all social media metrics. From January through June, content we created or curated on Twitter generated nearly 160,000 impressions with more than 10,000 profile visits and 119 mentions. We We generated 114 new followers, which is 15% of our total followers. It should be noted that we had a very successful showing in April during Financial Literacy Month, soundly breaking Financial Beginnings audience records on social media. Although Facebook has been less useful this year in terms of garnering and engaging audiences than Twitter, we still experienced increases from January to June in impressions, page views, post engagements, and new page likes. Beyond social media, we've recently launched our monthly national newsletter, distributed to nearly 2,000 recipients. Our first issue generated an above industry average open rate of 29%. In the year to come, we hope to continue to expand and refine our newsletter contact list and more fully leverage its value in establishing and fostering relationships that may allow us to connect with groups interested in launching a Financial Beginnings affiliate. Supporting affiliates in the marketing and communication efforts is indeed important. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't, but at the heart of what we do is to develop and provide high quality financial education programming for those on the ground working closely with local communities. This past year, we have supported affiliates in these efforts by increasing their capacity to reach underserved audiences. First, the Spanish translation process was reconfigured to align with best practices and with a translation protocol that utilizes evidence-based practices. Additionally, all foundations' volunteer presenter notes have been translated so Spanish-speaking volunteers can think and teach in one language, thereby improving their instruction. We're excited to be currently creating a new program called Forward that supports the development of financial capability among economically vulnerable adults in transition, with Spanish versions of the curricula available this fall. And above all, across all our curricula, we are making improvements in graphic design and layout to better ensure program accessibility for individuals with varying learning styles. Continual curricular refinement is one of the key ways we support affiliates. Some noteworthy highlights in this regard include FBUSA being selected as a CFPB partner and will receive specialized training that we will pass on to affiliates. And we're also adapting CFPB's Your Money, Your Goals coaching materials for interactive group education and updating SAFE from lessons that we learned from the pilot. Another FBUSA initiative this year has been to maintain operations, technology, and systems that promote efficiency and efficacy. Some of the many improvements made this past year include a revised employee handbook, updated social media policy and evaluation procedures, and new policies for class parameters to promote quality control. Technology improvements have been a huge part of that done this year. A couple recent efforts we are especially proud of include a customized CMS system that affiliates can use to organize classes, volunteers, and messaging, and improve demographics, traffic tracking, and reporting necessary for grant writing and best serving diverse populations. So what are some of the lessons we have learned this past year? Melody is now going to cover a few of those and speak a bit about leading with vision, which she does so well.
Thank you guys. Well, first, I really want to thank the team here, and then also the teams at Oregon and Washington for doing this. I'm really excited about this because I think, you know, when we were going through this is just the highlights. There really is so much more that has been going on, and we would take a much longer time to be able to cover it. But really, these are just some of the highlights. And so thank you to everybody for putting this together. I tasked the team with this a few weeks ago, and actually it was the day before I went on a 2.5-week vacation. And so I thank you guys for putting this together. So the good part of that means that I didn't have to do anything with this. The bad part of that is, yeah, Melody, you get lessons learned. So that's great. So this really has been a time of learning, and so we can go to the next one. And actually, can I have one?
Yeah.
All right. So with this, and I think my team's probably sick of hearing it, but I really do mean it, is, you know, as we're working through these new processes and kind of what is the new norm for Financial Beginnings, I'm constantly saying that, you know, this really does turn into a lesson learned for us. And so with that, I do want to make sure that, you know, with these highlights, there have been a lot of opportunities for lessons learned with that. So really, one of the big aspects with this is we are now covering a larger geographic space. And even within our teams, we you know, a lot of us work remotely, and we have affiliates across multiple states and possible new affiliates that are in other states. And so we really have had to figure out is how do we effectively continue to communicate to our local teams and existing affiliates, but then also nationally. How do we get the word out that Financial Beginnings is now a national entity? And with that, we have Oregon and Washington up now, and we have these great additional states that are interested in becoming the next Financial Beginnings affiliate. And with that, I know that there is this like secret formula that is going to end up really making the new affiliates come up easier and easier. So I can tell that the third affiliate, you know, there's going to be some kinks and some lessons learned to help to make the fourth one easier. And then I just can tell that number 5 to 50 are going to go like gangbusters, because that's really what we're trying to determine, is what is that secret formula. Defining an effective region, and this is really something that a lot of affiliate nonprofits have been struggling with. If you look at other national affiliate-based nonprofits such as Girl Scouts or Habitats for Humanity, they actually are trying to come back together and take larger geographic regions. And so for us, you know, our kind of initial goal that we're looking into this is that, you know, we would love to have one Financial Beginnings in each state, and that each affiliate would really strive towards covering that entire state over time, obviously not immediately. But we do have to be open to this, and we have to be open to exploring other possibilities. Also having the understanding that some states really may need to be divided up, such as maybe, you know, a California or an Alaska. So that's one of the areas that we're continuing to learn on. We're continuing to need to further define and set limits that really help to strengthen our brand and strengthen the relationships between us and the affiliates together. And I want to continue to really stress the importance that we are one team. So even though we are creating additional organizations that are independent entities, we want to make sure that we really are moving forward together with that same mission and same vision as one team. With this, we've also had the opportunity for figuring out how to define what our cohesive message is, having that consistent tone. And so that is, you know, us at the national level, but then also making sure that we're providing resources that we're all continuing going along with us moving forward as one team, that we're providing that consistent message. With this, it's really hard because right now we have 2 affiliates, but we're having to start to think in the sense that we are going to have 50, possibly more affiliates. So moving forward, when we're making decisions, we're having to really take that lens of this being 50 times over. We want to continue to leverage what we've been successful with the media. We've had some really great starts, but I think that there is, you know, for us to continue to be a part of that national conversation, we want to increase our media coverage, connect and become one of those influential individuals when it comes to financial literacy or organizations in that conversation. And we want to continue to create programs that are aligning with standards and best practices. And there are continuing to organizations are starting to kind of pop up with their own standards. So we have to be very methodical in the sense of, depending on the program and depending on the age group and the audience that we're serving, determining what the best standards are that we are going to aligning that curricula with. We want to continue to contribute to research around financial capabilities. You know, I recently produced a study that was actually defining what it means to take a personal finance course, because that's something that's not really been defined. And when you look at the research as a whole, there really isn't a lot of research about effective financial education. And so I think that there is a huge opportunity for us to be able to move forward and continue to contribute to that. So my daughter, a 6-year-old, woke up the other night and with growing pains. Do you remember how we have that, you know, and it's it's painful, and like it's really hard to explain to a 6-year-old that this is just kind of part of life. And and it's almost, I think I got a comment like, well, I don't need to grow up then, and and so really embracing and understanding that change is difficult, and that we are kind of in that growing pain phase and in the infancy of this new iteration of financial beginnings. And so recognizing that and embracing it. We want to figure out what that kind of perfect balance is, and I say perfect, which will take time, but really what is a good balance in our providing resources to our affiliates, and also in the affiliates contributing towards the national moving forward of our mission and vision. And we want to figure out is how do we help affiliates to best achieve their potential within their market, and understanding that each market is going to have a different potential and needs with that. So now this is where I love talking about it, though, is so this is the strategic plan. And I have always said one thing that I really appreciate about our organization is that we really do live and die by the strategic plan. And over the last year, and I would say even maybe 2 years, we've been in kind of a weird place, because the last time we developed a 5-year strategic plan, we hit it out of the park within 3 years. And so over the last couple of years, it's been this transition into this new how. And we have not been operating under a strategic plan, which is under that new how. So taking over the last year and even 2 years, some of these successes that we've had, as well as the lessons learned, have brought us to this point in our new strategic plan. Now, you will notice this is something different for us, is we decided that we only want to focus on 3 years. We are in this new iteration of financial beginnings. As I mentioned, our last strategic plan, we kind of blew out of the water within 3 years. And so we decided to take a shorter approach to it. Now, the goals overall are pretty much the same that they have been with our previous 2 strategic plans. But really, it's taking it now through the lens of this new model of our being Financial Beginnings USA and having Financial Beginnings affiliates. And so the strategic planning process we worked through, it was a year-plus process to the board worked on this in the spring of 2017, and then the staff continued to work on and refine and expand out what the board had envisioned it to be. And then we finally presented it and wrapped it up and voted on it this spring. And this is available online. And I'm just, I think now our team is just all very eager and excited to now be creating our operational plans on how we can fulfill this new strategic vision. And with this, I am really excited because I'm 3 minutes short. Okay, so I really, again, I want to thank everybody for the work put into today, and the stakeholders that are willing to come forward to hear about this, because it's really exciting to just spend an hour and a half bragging about how amazing we are. And I really just love hearing about what we're doing, because I think sometimes we get so caught up in the minutia of the day-to-day activities of running our organizations. It's not often that we get an opportunity to be able to broadcast this. And and to let you all know, we are recording this, and so we have this available. So if there are any stakeholders that you guys had, you'll be able to share that with them later. And so with that, we are now going to be passing the presentation on to our Oregon flagship affiliate.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Tom Moosbrugger here, Development Director with Financial Beginnings Oregon. I am going to be kicking off Financial Beginnings Oregon's team share out today. First, I just want to start by thanking everyone for that great presentation. Really cool to hear about all the amazing things going on at Financial Beginnings USA and exciting to hear about all of the updates. I was particularly excited to hear about all the different states that have applied. So it was really cool to see that map and see all the things that are kind of in the works for the future. So the whole Financial Beginnings Oregon team is going to be sharing a little bit today. So I'm just going to dive right in and kick it off with a development update. So at Financial Beginnings Oregon, as everyone knows, our mission is to provide free financial education to thousands of Oregonians. Last year, our goal was to reach 30,000 Oregonians with our programs, with a particular focus on increasing our work in low-income communities. So my role in helping us achieve that goal was to help us raise the funds we need to actually accomplish that. So Kate and I, at the beginning of the year, kind of set some big picture goals for the year. And I think the three that I wanted to talk about today were our first goal was to raise $488,000 to support our programs. Our second goal was to refocus our event energy. And our third was to recruit equity-focused funders. And I'll go in a little bit more detail on each of those in a moment. So our first goal was to raise $488,000. And that's a pretty simple goal, pretty easy to understand. Projecting that we were going to reach 30,000 or more students, we figured that was roughly what we needed to accomplish that. So how'd we do? So I personally like to start with the bad news. So we're going to start with two of our goals that we did not hit this year. For those of you who don't know, we have really 5 main buckets that we think about each year. And these are the 2 buckets where we didn't actually hit our projected goals. So the first was corporate foundation grants, and the second was our individual contributions goal. Our analysis, I think the thing we learned from not hitting our corporate foundation grants goal was that, we actually set ourselves a pretty tight margin of error in that goal. We didn't really have a lot of room for funders to, especially returning funders, to say no. And while actually most of our returning funders came back, one of them just took a lot longer to make a decision, and that really hurt us throughout the year. And then with individual contributions, I think we've just kind of collectively decided as a team that it's less of a focus of ours. So throughout the year, we weren't really able to hit that goal because we were just less focused on it. We were focused on identifying more equity funders and kind of going after some of the bigger foundation funders in the state. So we were sad that we didn't hit those goals. However, the good news was that we did really great in a few other categories. So this year in corporate sponsorships, our goal was to raise $134,000. And through the great effort of Kate Benedict and with support from me, we actually were able to raise $157,242.50.
Thanks for that 50 cents, Jones Lang LaSalle.
Thank you, Jones Lang LaSalle. And the real highlight there was that we actually identified 7 new corporate sponsors this year. So, we were able, through a lot of proactive outreach into the community, to find new supporters of our work who were really excited about it. And, we're hopeful, and that some of that was in partnership with Washington as well. And we're hopeful that some of those will turn into long-term relationships that will support us for years to come. The other big highlight for me, they're all highlights really. So in foundations, our goal was to raise $140,000, and we ended up raising $174,500, and identified 5 new foundations, and actually a 6th, although that one is being carried over into the new year. Unimportant information. Anyway, we identified quite a few new foundations, and we're really excited about that. And then finally, our events goal for this year was to raise $22,650, which would include tickets, and any income related to events. In actuality, we ended up more than doubling that goal and raising $52,752. So we're really excited about that. At the end of the day, if you were counting, we raised $529,858.50, beating our annual goal pretty significantly. So we were really excited about that, and it really set us up well to be successful for next year. So as I mentioned, another big goal of ours this year was to refocus our event energy. And you may have noticed that we raised $52,752.22 in event income, beating our goal. And in fact, we did this without holding our annual celebration this year. So at the beginning of the year, the whole team sat down and sort of had a conversation about how we wanted to spend our time on events. And while we had a really great time hosting our celebration last year and had a really successful one, we just collectively decided that we wanted to refocus our energy and instead of splitting our time between two events, we wanted to focus on just one. So we decided this year to do away with our annual celebration and just focus our event fundraising energy on the Financial Literacy Conference, because we felt like as an event with real community value, it was worth spending more time on. And then also we felt like we could make that event really great and really successful by having more time to spend on it. So as a result, we've now raised $42,000 as of yesterday in sponsorships for the 2018 FLC, and we still have 2 months remaining until the event, and we expect to get at least a few more sponsorships before the event is done. So, and then also by refocusing, we were able to secure a $25,000 challenge grant from the Maybelle Clark McDonald Fund, putting us in a really fantastic position to start 18-19 really strong. So we were really excited about that. And I think going forward, we're going to continue with this model because it's been really effective for us. And I think we all feel like having this extra time to spend on FLC has been really great. And then finally, we had a focus on recruiting more equity-focused funders. So, as an organization, we've had a really big focus, a really central focus on our ongoing efforts to incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion into our organization and our programs. And we wanted to see if this work could help us improve our relationships with funders that have a stated focus on those principles. And these efforts had a really significant impact on our funding this year. So our work helped us recruit 2 of our largest new funders, the Collins Foundation and First Tech Federal Credit Union. And it also helped us recapture a funder who hadn't supported us since 2011, which was the Spear Mountain Community Fund. So in total, those funders contributed $49,000 to Financial Beginnings Oregon, or almost 10% of our budget this year. And in each case, they specifically cited our DEI work as a core reason for their support. And speaking personally, the Collins Foundation was a particular highlight, as this was our 6th application to them and the first one that they had ever funded. So it felt like a big win for us, and the culmination of a lot of hard work, both from my predecessor, Kristen, and of course, Melody. But it just felt like a really validating moment that the work we're doing is meaningful and that the funders are recognizing that it's good. So coming up this next year, we're hoping to raise $528,000, but hopefully more. We want to expand our outreach, continue to expand our outreach to equity funders. There's definitely many more that we could be working with throughout the state. We want to identify 5 to 10 new foundations and/or corporate foundations. And then we want to improve the development processes and standard operating procedures to make, kind of a well-oiled machine. So thank you. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Priscilla Wagner.
All right. Hello, everybody. For those of you, any stakeholders who are on the call that are not from Oregon, my name is Priscilla Wagner, and I am the Financial Beginnings Oregon Program Director. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about our 2018 goals versus actual for the year, some of the things that we learned, our successes, and then improvements with regards to the program, and also looking ahead and going forward. So first and foremost, looking at some of the goals versus actual, we were really, really proud this year. We set our highest goal yet. I feel like we've set this goal a couple of years in a row now, but this was the first time we finally did officially hit over 30,000 students served, finalizing at 31,432 students served in Oregon. So Oregonians served with the Financial Beginnings programs. So really, really, really proud of that moment. It's something that I know I've been working on hitting 30,000 since I started in 2016. So it was an exciting moment for me. And in order to hit that goal, we needed a lot of active volunteers. So our biggest number of active volunteers yet. We had 268 active volunteers in Oregon. So folks all over the state, and a lot of new people from new partners and new funders. And I think that our mine and Tom's collaboration with regards to building partnerships with a lot of our new financial institutions really came into play in building these active volunteers, something I'm going to talk about a little bit later in my portion here. We also focused a lot, like Tom mentioned, on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one of those metrics that we use to determine that, as many of you know on the call, but for those of you who don't know, we use a number called LMI, or low to moderate income percentage. In schools, that's the percentage of students that are on free and reduced lunch. In nonprofit organizations, it's folks who are 80% of the local area median income. And we had a goal this year of 55% of our students being low income, and we ended the year at 59%. So again, something we were really, really proud of, that 59% of the folks that we are teaching our programs to, providing our vital financial education programs to, were considered low income. We also had a goal of really focusing on really a location by location basis, looking and seeking out and being really intentional about the organizations we were looking at serving. And our goal was to have 65% of all the locations we served be locations that served 51% or more low-income students, and we ended the year a little bit below that goal at 63%. So those are some of the kind of overarching goals. Some other notable goals that I wanted to mention as well is we had a goal of serving 500 students with our Spanish curriculum, which actually was double our amount from last year. We ended the year at 250 students served with our Spanish curriculum last year, and this year we ended the year at serving 570 students. So the help, getting from Financial Beginnings USA with improving those Spanish, the Spanish curriculum has been really vital to our ability to do that. And we are really hoping to continue to expand and increase that number as we go forward. Another number here that we can really use to attribute, I think, the number of low-income participants we've had, but also in some cases, the number of Spanish students served was the number of CBO partners that we have had. So we here in Oregon, CBO, community-based organization, we attribute CBO as a nonprofit, a local government agency or government organization, and also homeless shelters. So in our case this year, we had a goal of serving and partnering with 30 CBOs, and we ended the year with 44 CBO partners, which I'm really was really proud of. That was something that we really wanted to focus on, really making sure that we believe that our partnerships with our CBOs help us to really deepen our impact in our communities, and are really helping to not only, on the one hand, really start these programs early with a lot of, youth and that K through 12 space, but also kind of capture and educate folks who maybe didn't get this in school and are able to really provide them to them after the fact, and be able to kind of reteach them some of those core values and core lessons. We had a goal this year of being in 18 counties, and our goal was really to not grow, but to deepen our impact in counties we were already in. And in that goal, we ended up growing anyway. We grew, and we ended up in 20 counties this year. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about how our collaboration, mine and Tom's collaboration with Respace, of funding and partnering and programs together, really had a huge impact on that. And then finally, the launch and movement of the SAFE program. We were in kind of its second year of work, really the first year after its pilot year. We had a goal of serving 200 students with the SAFE workshops. We ended up serving 300 students with the SAFE workshops. And then one area where we didn't hit, but we really learned a lot about this mechanism and how to change this going forward. Our goal was to serve 50 students with mentorship, and we ended the year at 7. And that feels low, but I'm really proud of those 7 mentored students. And then I'll talk a little bit about that in the next part, which is some of our successes and improvements, the ups and downs, the roller coaster that was our programs here. So first and foremost, successes, because I, unlike Tom, I like to talk about the good stuff first. First, I really was really proud of our strategic partnerships. We really did a really good job being really intentional about our partnerships. And I want to highlight 3 specific strategic partnership types. One, nonprofit organizations. We were really intentional about the nonprofits and community-based organizations we worked with. Really focused and picked nonprofits that we worked with, and making sure that we were working with organizations that added value to Financial Beginnings Oregon, added value to the community, and that we really were really focusing on strengthening and empowering our communities here in the state. Financial institutions. This was a space I was really, really, really excited about. Tom and I were very collaborative. Development and program worked hand in hand this year in, being, again, very intentional. He would identify a partner that we would want to work with, and we would work with them, and in turn we would really get them involved in volunteerism, get them involved in our programs, and in turn they would increase their investment. A great example of that is Washington Federal. They gave us a kind of get to know you $1,000 grant at the beginning of last year. We then ended up doing a whole host of volunteer orientations with them. They ended up finishing the year at almost 100 volunteer hours, and got us into new counties and new communities all across the state. We're working in counties in Southern and Eastern Oregon we've never even been in before. And thanks to that work, and thanks to that increased investment, they're going to be increasing their financial investment as well with us. So that kind of dual partnership has been really strategic and really amazing. And then finally, government agencies. So working with groups like DCBS, again, an organization that we are really proud to partner with. They have helped us to train insurance agents all across the state, again, helping us to mobilize our work in counties we've never been in before. Got to travel to Pendleton and Bend and up and down the coast this year with DCBS. And thanks to that, again, that increased work and those increased presences in those counties and communities, again, is leading to an increased investment financially. A shift in focus, another thing that we've been focusing on, a big, kind of theme you'll see is really increasing our work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. That, something that, Melody and Kate and I have talked about, now I'm kind of dubbing it the parachute theory, where we have a resource that we want to provide to folks. And if you're providing a resource to people on a plane and that plane is going down, you want to be able to provide it to those who don't already have parachutes or aren't going to be able to have parachutes to get safely down to land. And our goal is to really provide our programs and really focus on organizations and schools that need them the most. Of course, our goal and our mission as an organization will always be financial education to everyone, but being able to be kind of intentional about where we're doing some of that strategic outreach has been really amazing in the direction we've been going. And then just kind of touching on, again, deepening our impact versus just grow, and in turn that has helped us to grow. We held a wide number of, we hosted 4 focus groups this year at drastically different schools, which helped us to really identify some key areas that we wanted to improve upon. And then finally, the development of our financial empowerment training, which has been a really great asset to our nonprofit partners who want to be more empowered themselves around educating their own participants around personal finance. Then talking a little bit about some of the improvements and things that we wanted to do better this year. We want to continue to improve upon. So number one being our volunteer training program. I'm going to let Jasmine, our new volunteer manager, talk a little bit about that, but just improving our volunteer training program. We learned a lot in our focus groups about how our volunteers are using the programs and being, again, able to say, look, the budgeting class that you're going to teach to a group of high schoolers at Southridge High School is going to be the same budgeting class that you're going to teach to maybe a group of folks at a homeless shelter. So how do you as the volunteer recognize that and utilize your skills as a volunteer to change and to kind of utilize the program in a way that is beneficial to the group that you're working with? Again, that improvement and focus on diversity, equity, inclusion. Again, and then this is another thing I'll let Jasmine talk about, but just being more strategic on how we are utilizing our volunteers. One thing we really wanted to do better at and increase our focus on is our school and district-wide partnerships. And then something we also learned a lot about this year was our SAFE utilization. You know, SAFE was kind of built as this ultimate, the ultimate goal of SAFE was to work with college level and community college level students. And we have found some barriers center in those regards. So we've been able to be creative about how to still work with SAFE participants and still find partners to work with SAFE, while also simultaneously kind of breaking those barriers. And a really exciting update we have there is that we will be working with the PCC Trades and Apprenticeships program this year. We just started a SAFE round with them, and we'll be doing another one with them in the fall, and we're really thrilled about that. And then another theme you'll hear, again, standard operating procedures, creating them, improving them, and utilizing them. Gonna go ahead now and allow for going ahead and just gonna kind of run through this, just our goals for the upcoming school year. You can kind of see this, just a couple of the highlights that I wanted to focus on. They're all on the screen here, but biggest things that we wanted to highlight: 1,000 students served with our Spanish curriculum. That's really important. We want to double the work that we did last year. 35,000 students served with 50 total community-based organization partners, and participation in 22 counties next year. So now I'm going to go ahead and bounce this off to Jasmine Roque, our newest team member, our volunteer manager.
Yay, thanks, Priscilla. Hi everyone, Jasmine, volunteer manager. My pronouns are she, her, and I've been officially on staff. I counted actually for 27 days. Yay. Yeah, and I'm super excited to share a little bit with you all about, you know, what's on the horizon for volunteerism in the upcoming year for Financial Beginnings Oregon. And really my goal today is kind of to just provide you all with like a 100,000 foot view of you know, what we're hoping to accomplish. And so there's various priorities, you know, that I have as a volunteer manager throughout the year, but these kind of 4 categories that you see on the screen, I think really encompass the spirit of what we're hoping to accomplish together over the coming year. And I'll talk about 2 pretty briefly here and then go a little bit deeper into some of the other 2. So as Priscilla mentioned, you know, increasing or utilizing volunteers, but really kind of the frame that I'm sort of approaching this as is increasing opportunities for volunteers to engage with Financial Beginnings Oregon. So really an opportunity to bring folks with a variety of different skill sets into the organization and deepen their relationship with us. And that in turn will also help us, you know, be more efficient, but also just build our organizational capacity. The other priority you'll see up here is updating and streamlining systems and procedures to maximize Financial Beginning Oregon's impact. So I think a lot of folks on our team have talked about that today, but in this realm, a lot of that, what that will encompass is going to include things related to survey collection, data collection, and information, as well as other things like collecting activities and videos and getting feedback from some of our really amazing volunteers. The other goal or priority that we have is cultivating a volunteer base that is representative of the communities served by Financial Beginnings Oregon. So the organization has a lot of really great partnerships with institutions right now that allow us to develop relationships with folks who not only have expertise in a lot of the topics that are covered in our programs, but also a passion for providing financial literacy information to, you know, people in their communities. And continuing to cultivate that base of volunteers is definitely a critical component and going to continue to be a critical component of, making sure that we're able to meet the needs of all the folks that we're currently serving, but also making sure that we're providing and making experts in this field accessible to everybody. But as the organization continues to expand access to programming, a parallel goal, I would say, is to continue to expand our volunteer base in a way that is also reflective of the folks that we're serving. And so, part of the way that we'll be doing that is through some of these targeted recruitment efforts, as well as culturally based organization volunteer trainings. It's really exciting, I think, to be a part of an organization that is really prioritizing thinking beyond something transactional and really being transformative about the way that they are engaging with people in their communities and the volunteers that they're bringing into the organization as well. So I'm really excited to be a part of this process with you all. And the next thing that I'll say that I'll kind of lift up is strengthening volunteer onboarding and ongoing support systems for high quality program delivery and increased volunteer retention. So I really think that when people feel like they are contributing to something bigger than themselves, when they feel supported and like they're being set up for success and have a good experience, that they are more likely to continue doing that thing. Some of the ways in which we'll be doing that is increasing volunteer resources. So we've implemented a how-to webinar series. It's been great to provide volunteers with scenarios, review frequently asked questions about specific programs, best practices, share practical tips, and skills that really help volunteers develop skills that are going to make them feel confident in the classroom or out in the community, as well as be adaptive and responsive to their audience, and continue to deliver the high quality of programs that is expected of them. Some of the other ways, really revamping our new volunteer account email to be more consistent with our volunteer digest, to provide shadow opportunities for folks and as well as opportunities to teach. And again, on that adaptive piece is reinforcing that by making videos, activities, and additional content really available and accessible to volunteers. Annual and ongoing volunteer appreciation as well, creating more opportunities, I think, for volunteers to hear about, to see, and to be reminded of the impact that they're making, that the work that they're doing, is really making a difference in people's lives. And a space also, I think, for volunteers to come together in person and not only celebrate their hard work, but to see that, they really are a part of something bigger, and an opportunity for us to also build a deeper relationship with them. And that's also something that I'm really looking forward to. And with that, I think that is, I'll hand it off to Kate. So pretty short and sweet.
Hi, everybody. I am very aware that we have less than 2 minutes left, so I will not take too much time. We had lots of program, volunteer, and development highlights to share, and so I am not surprised that my team, we all got a little long-winded, and so I will be quick. So many of the highlights and challenges shared by the team, we of course learned, struggled through, and accomplished together, so I don't want to be repetitive. But just like Melody, I wanted to focus on lessons learned. And then I also wanted to share strategic wins, what we see when we're looking ahead, and share some of our gratitude. So in terms of lessons learned, I'm actually going to just shorten everything I planned to say to just focus on one in each category. So lessons learned. Change can be really great. The new affiliate structure has been great for so many reasons. It's helped us focus solely on Oregon, save for a little bit of Idaho action every once in a while. And we have really gotten to feel like a well-oiled machine, getting to focus with our state partners and students. And the affiliate structure has also been really great because we've been able to develop new ways to work with Washington in terms of fundraising, and have really loved the increased support from Financial Beginnings USA in terms of marketing and curriculum. It's been such an incredible weight lifted to have that support, and we have felt just really able to focus on the work with that support from FBUSA. So thank you. That change has been noticed and appreciated. Lessons learned, change can also be not so great. We, just like Melody said, same language here, we've had some growing pains within the new model. For us, that looked like struggling to sometimes explain it to funders and feeling there was a little bit of confusion with how our new model worked. And we also learned some really tough lessons about our own policies and procedures this year. Sort of a theme, we've all been working on trying to streamline that, and we've focused really hard on clear and consistent communication. But it has felt a little bit like 2 steps forward and 1 step back in this arena to make sure that we are all on the same page with changes and new policies. And we're really working hard to fix our own internal policy failures to make sure that we're able to accommodate new changes. So just so everyone knows, we really feel like we've learned lessons in that arena, and that even though there are places where change can be not so great, we feel like we've learned from it and are stronger moving forward. I wanted to share some strategic wins and just focus on 2 areas of our strategic plan, goal 5 and 6, which is our focus on equity and inclusion and enhancing organizational governance. So to make it really fast, some of the things we felt really great about is we went through a whole team all year long, all staff training on equity and inclusion, which has really changed a lot of the work we do. We made some pretty swift and sweeping changes, including building out an equitable hiring policy, adding new voices to the board. 37% of our board now identifies as a person of color or someone from a low-income background, to really make sure our governance is representing the community we serve. And then we've talked on lots of the other things, like being able to diversify our volunteer base and track those things. So thank you to USA for helping us develop the internal systems to be able to do that as well. And then looking ahead, sorry for rapid fire. Jasmine touched on changes to volunteer trainings, making sure we're able to have conversations with our volunteers about things like generational poverty and income inequality, and making sure that volunteers are prepared to educate all different types of students. We are realizing that the students served this year, we hit our capacity, we hit our max, and all 4 of us, we thought, Financial Literacy Month might actually kill us all. April was too much. And so we're realizing that it's time to bring on a 5th staff member, and we're figuring out what that will look like. I'm going to skip goal number 3 because I'm out of time. And lastly, I just wanted to share gratitude that we have been so grateful for all the times when people have reached out to collaborate and said, hey, I have a new plan or a new idea and would love to hear your input. Or, hey, I have a problem, or I'm frustrated with something. Can Financial Beginnings Oregon help us sort this out or talk it out? That collaboration has made us stronger in every instance, and we're so grateful for that. And we're also really grateful for the candor that everybody has shared throughout this this year of growth and change. We really feel grateful that we've been able to have tough conversations when we're either stepping on each other's toes across affiliates or with USA, or not holding up our end of a bargain. And we really feel like we've learned to have those difficult conversations this year and still be able to move forward and find a middle ground and improve systems. So I just wanted to share that those 2 things have really made our Financial Beginnings team as a whole so much stronger in our opinion, and we are grateful to all of you for your contributions to that. Thank you very much. Definitely don't have time for questions. Sorry that I went 3 minutes over. Very sorry.
I'm really excited to be having this organization-wide conversation. And our team and I had really good conversations in preparation for today's meeting. I will be doing most of the presentation, although Rebecca will share the last few slides with you. And you should know that one of our team members gets an A+ for effort. He has a van full of teenage boys going on a rafting trip, and he is listening in quietly but attentively, I'm sure. Hopefully safely as well. So with that, I'm going to dive in and share some of our experiences in the Washington affiliate. So the first theme that we have is really around organizational development. And this is obviously, a function of becoming a new independent 501c3. Several of you have already talked about this morning. For us, what that has meant is really, a whole host of new governance, operational, and financial structures that we've been focusing on over the course of the past year. The board approved a strategic plan at the start of the year, which set the tone and was fantastic. We brought on one new board member this year, and actually a second one just after the end of the year. So we'll continue to grow the governance of the organization, and as they kind of settle into their roles, I expect them to be providing, more high-level leadership across the board. Similar to national, we've been building brand awareness this past year as well, and so we have been increasing the use of social media, improving communications, design and content, and a lot of that has been, particularly in the last few months, with the wonderful assistance from Kim. We can't thank you enough for helping us create templates and just make things look a little bit more professional, which is great. We've also been working to diversify the revenue and support for the organization so that we could have different sources of income as well as have them coming in throughout the year. In previous years, much of the revenues kind of appeared in the last couple of months before the end of the year, and that is something we've intentionally been working to shift and will continue to work on. On the programming side, we have built new structures in that regard. So we have both expanded and hired new and versatile staff members. One thing that's unique, I think, about Washington is that we did have a fair amount of turnover in staffing this year, particularly on the program side, and no staff member was in a full-time position longer than 3 months at a time. So that has proved to be our biggest challenge in the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018. And I'm actually proud of our work to be able to provide program continuity this year. The previous year's numbers were about 16,000, just under 16,000 participants, and we managed to come in at just under 9,000. So considering that we didn't have very much program staff, I think that's a pretty reasonable result. And not only that, the prospects for going forward are fantastic. July was really I view it as a serious departure from the previous 6 months. Following some changes in staffing, we immediately began to exceed our numbers from the prior year. So just as of the month of July, for the number of participants in CMS, that number was 264% higher than the same time the prior year. And as you know, the summer is the slowest time for all of our classes because school's out and people are taking vacations, so volunteers are not readily available all the time, et cetera, et cetera. So I believe that will bode really well for us in the coming year. We've also had a year of learning and refinement. We all kind of, most of us understand the full rhythm of the year now. Others will help create that, especially Jason on the program side. We've really kind of identified what our distinctive competence is vis-a-vis other organizations providing financial education, because the first question everyone always wants to know is, how are you different from whoever, JA or someone else, and what do you do? I believe that a lot of the learning and refinement is congruent with organization-wide shifts. And what's interesting for Washington is we're actually very similar to national in a lot of regards. We're a brand new organization, kind of figuring things out, building that brand awareness, and at the same time, we're very similar to Oregon in the sense that we're providing the direct service. And so we're a little bit of a hybrid, I think, in this particular year, and hopefully things will settle in this coming fiscal year. We too have been looking to connect to community need. And Kate, you were talking about income inequality and generational poverty, and we've got a very acute homelessness problem in Washington State, particularly in the Puget Sound region, and that leads to particular program and fundraising needs. So it leads to us thinking about how we diversify the board, how we diversify our volunteer instructors, how we provide trainings for staff, board, and volunteers, and you will see more of that in the coming slides. One really interesting thing that we have done, and Oregon has already touched on this as well, I think it was Tom who mentioned it, but the joint efforts with Financial Beginnings Oregon have been really critical and vital to really kind of solidifying a couple of new and important relationships for us. And the work that we continue to do with them to provide the tools that they need and the trainings they need, I think are going to be really important. And Columbia Bank and Umpqua Bank come to mind as two really solid examples of that. So I'm incredibly grateful to the joint efforts, or for the joint efforts with the Oregon staff on fundraising and program development. That's been wonderful. And I'm also pleased to say that as part of the learning and refinement process, you know, we took a look at some small but hopefully easy wins, if you want to call it that, and started to look at Southwest Washington as a natural place for us to rebuild the organization. And I'm pleased to say that we had 400% growth in Southwest Washington in the number of participants served over the prior year. So we're obviously not only working you know, jointly with Oregon on broader impact for the entire organization, but also acutely aware that that geographical presence down in Southwest Washington is a key component of that. So we'll continue to look at that area. What has become apparent to me and to my staff is that this past fiscal year is really our true baseline. The reality is, you know, some of the prior numbers have been pretty significantly overstated in terms of participant numbers and volunteer numbers. We are continuing to sort of scrub the data, not to go back and re-audit the whole entire thing, but as new information comes out, especially around, you know, volunteers and whether they're active or not, we're trying to refine that data so that fiscal year 2018 can be the true baseline and can be the measure for our growth and progress going forward. We'd really like that to be more accurate. We've taken steps to work with our partners and volunteers to provide us with that accurate data and making sure that people are, you know, not just saying, oh yeah, it'll be 50 students, and then, you know, come to find out it's 30 or 22 or something. And so we're trying to reduce those discrepancies and provide accurate data for the whole organization to know what we're serving, or, you know, and how many people we're serving. And I'm pleased to say that we have formally crossed the LMI threshold in this past fiscal year. In prior years, we didn't have more than 50% of our participants served be of the LMI over 50% threshold, and in this year we finally exceeded that benchmark. So obviously we have a lot of work to do to get it to very high numbers, but we've at least formally crossed that threshold. And I'm particularly grateful to be working with the national organization on continual technological developments, you know, refining class and volunteer tracking, and you know, in partnership with ASH and in partnership with the rest of the organization has been a key element to us being able to provide accurate data. So thank you very much for that. We are what Rebecca likes to call small but mighty. You know, we're a nimble organization. We have really been adapting to a lot of things on the ground this year, to a lot of organization-wide changes, and we'll continue to do so as a learning organization. Just to give you a couple of things that we're considering in the future, you know, obviously with new personnel come new relationships. The great thing is that our staff are experienced and they're at the ready, so they can both anticipate and respond to opportunities and challenges, whether they be, you know, geographical expansion, legislative advocacy, you know, fundraising, all of those good things, and leveraging donated professional services, interns, and other types of volunteer assistance to bring that into the classroom. Excuse me, outside of the classroom. All right, we are focused on trying to have maximum impact. And we wanted to share some things that might be unique about the Washington affiliate as opposed to Oregon. And I guess the most important place to start to give you context is this distinctive legal environment that we face. Washington State is one of the states that does not require financial education as part of its K-12 curriculum in the public schools. And what that means is that unlike Oregon, we don't have teachers clamoring for classes as a requirement of their performance, or as a requirement of curriculum, or other things. What's interesting though is the state learning standards have been created, and so any classes that are taught must adhere to those standards, and ours do. But what we're really trying to do is help teachers meet these financial education benchmarks as and when they deem them to be appropriate for their curriculum, whether it's CTE teachers or what have you. But I do think that that's a very unique situation, in that the absence of a formal requirement means that there's more education, I think, and relationship building that is involved in the promotion and distribution of our programs. We're focused this year on student-centric programs. And these are two young, lovely lads who participated in one of our classes this year. And we also have, more adult classes too. We wanted to share a couple of different types of classes that we've had. Everything from workforce development at the Puget Sound Training Center to, again, working with community-based partners who are trying to address the needs of homeless individuals. That would be Jubilee Women's Center. And then some other fun ones, for example, teaching classes at Tech Tech Washington, which is a summer camp for 8th grade girls who are studying STEM-related careers. We're also pleased to announce that we'll be offering classes as part of an employee benefit / financial wellness program at the largest standalone fast food restaurant in the area, Dick's Drive-In. And I think that's going to really bode well for kind of a new and different type of training approach, which is, this financial wellness arena. In terms of effective impact, some of the things that we have been focusing on are identifying kind of broad categories of CDOs. And what that means is, looking at folks who are doing the same kind of work. So we can, if we need to customize the materials in any way, or identify specific needs, that we're giving them to the broadest group possible, not on a one-off basis. Obviously, we're looking to continue to introduce and improve education best practices. The work that Tracy's doing, of course, is important in that regard. And we're looking forward to the curriculum review this year as well. We're trying to deepen our relationships with the host educators, moving from transactional to transformational, and deepening those relationships so that we have more kind of repeat business, for lack of a better term. We're using lots of different things like reality fairs and special presentations to make sure we are addressing the needs of the students and meeting them wherever they're at. And of course, we're going to try to promote the whole series, whatever the curriculum might be, to increase the numbers while deepening those relationships. And incorporating an equity lens, which has been discussed in Oregon, and we're thinking about that as well in Washington. So this is an interesting data point. We have over 180 languages spoken in our school districts, particularly in the large metropolitan areas. And this theme is continuing to echo in other regions of the state as other communities evolve. For example, we're hearing greater diversity in the Spokane area, which is an area we're looking to grow into. And that's fundamentally important when you consider the experience not only of the students, but also the volunteers. They're our ambassadors, obviously. They're the key critical role or the face of Financial Beginnings in the classroom. Here's an example of a new volunteer for us this year, Mark. This is what it looks like in the classroom for him. 4 different languages being spoken: Spanish, Chinese, and Somali. 3 interpreters going on sequentially, not even sequential interpretation. The people in the room had a mixed range of financial literacy to begin with, walking in the door. Their kids are running around, the staff chasing kids. It's quite an interesting and unique situation, which is a little bit separate from your standard maybe 5th grade classroom. And so Mark's ability to adapt on the ground as a volunteer is is important to the success of the organization. You know, he may be an expert in his field, but he's at least humble enough to be open to his own learning as well as learning of the students in the classroom. And with that in mind, we have begun introducing these volunteer instructional supports, at tailoring our training to meet the unique market conditions that we have, and offering skill development opportunities, both in terms of teaching techniques and in terms of cultural awareness, and using an equity lens while teaching. We've also begun soliciting feedback from volunteers. We sent out our first annual survey, and we're now doing regular post-volunteer outreach after people are in the classroom to say, hey, how'd it go? Just getting feedback from them. So we're hoping that when people understand the audience and get comfortable enough so they'll get in the classroom and then follow up with them on their experience, that all of those things will be a more effective approach and will increase our volunteer retention. So I'm going to hand it over now to Rebecca. I'm going to keep the slides up, but I'm going to mute myself and let Rebecca speak.
Great, thank you, Amy. So good morning, everybody. I have unmuted myself, but I want confirmation that that's true.
You're good, Rebecca. Go ahead.
Awesome, thank you. First of all, I want to say thanks to the very robust support that we've received from National amidst your incredibly busy year. Kristen and Tim and Ash have been really responsive to me particularly, but I know to all of us as we've been trying to negotiate new changes, and I'm really appreciative of the support that you guys have given us. We, and Amy, you're going to have to advance the slide because I don't have the ability to do that. So effective impact for us means that we view our work as positive, as poverty disruptors. And what that means for us is that we work in tight conjunction with organizations that are doing the work of changing the conditions of poverty on the ground. And we are partnering with them to provide the tools to do that. We don't ourselves work to change the conditions of poverty, but nobody can succeed without financial literacy tools as they're doing that direct groundwork in the community. And that's an important lens that we're using because, as Amy pointed out, we've crossed the threshold of more than 50% of the people that we deliver services to are in the LMI category, both students and community-based organizations. So we think this is a way that we can make a big difference on the ground, especially for the conditions we're facing in the Tri-County region in the Puget Sound area, which is facing some pretty egregious homelessness issues and abject poverty that is just deepening. We also partner with transformational community members that are the lead that are making those kinds of community changes, which is why we're excited about the partnership. I'm particularly charged about the one with Dick's Drive-In. For people who don't know this business, it's a local fast food business, and they provide college scholarships for all of their employees who will work 20 hours or more at a fast food restaurant, which is almost unheard of. And they were very excited when we approached them to offer financial literacy as partners with them as part of their employee benefits package. And those kinds of transformations impact low-wage workers, and we're scanning the horizon to look for other partners who are in the for-profit business industry, who are working with low-wage workers, providing jobs for low-wage workers to help them change the conditions that they're facing. We also I'm really grateful for Tracy for the curriculum development work that she's doing. I don't come from an education background. We're very lucky that our program manager does. And so I really rely on Tracy to help me interpret best practices in educational content delivery so that I can write grants and talk to donors about how we're doing that and doing it well with best practices. So thank you very much. Finally, I would like to point you to the last slide, which is a beautiful quote, and I'm going to read it to you because I think it's impactful. Finances no longer is the creepy evil monster I am trying to lock in the closet anymore. It's a simple fact of life. I have hope and confidence in my future that I can and will own a home or own a business of my own. In dealing with these issues, I feel like I got some of my power back, a sense of accomplishment, some self-esteem. It feels like I'm climbing out of a collapsed underground mine that I have been trapped in for months and am just now feeling the sun on my face for the first time since it caved in. Thank you, and I will continue to work hard. There is so much useful, wonderful information. I decided to take the class a second time, and I'm loving it. I have literally felt almost suicidal over my bills and lack of money at times in my life, and just get tired and want to give up the struggle. I am learning it doesn't have to be a struggle. It has been liberating. And for me, this sums up the power of the work that Financial Beginnings is doing. And I'm really excited about both the deepening in the Puget Sound and the Pacific Northwest and the breadth of widening across the country. And I'm excited about us being able to make this kind of really effective impact in people's lives. Amy, do you want to wrap up?
I don't think you could have said it better. We've got hope and confidence not only in the students utilizing the skills that we're providing and changing their behaviors, but also hope and confidence in this wonderful organization. And we're looking forward to an exciting next year in partnership with all of you. So thanks, Melody, for organizing this firm-wide call. We really appreciate the opportunity to hear and share opportunities and challenges.
Thanks, Amy. This is Melody, and I am just blown away and very energized every time we have the opportunity to come together and do things like this. I would like to challenge us all, and with that, I'm kind of challenging our team to maybe take the lead on maybe we can try and do this in person next year, because I feel like there's an energy here, and I really appreciate everybody who took the time to join us today.